We should probably go over what's in the relief package, because this is starting to look like we're going to get one half of it. Now, this is also really, just stunning to me. And this is a massive failure for Nancy Pelosi, only because, and I'm just assessing it by her terms, right? Like, she promised we're going to get city and state funding.
We're going to get that. She characterizes it, though, because now Biden's going to be in office and there's a vaccine, the answer to our prayers, as she said. So substantively, if the bill is less, more than half of what she initially was turned down from Mnuchin and Trump, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because now.
But it's not. The fact is, it's not. And there's no city and state. It's what's happening is, and we had mentioned this, and this has been coming down, they're going to separate the two bills, right? So you're going to get a $760 million bill that is going to provide $300 billion in small business relief. That, presumably is like another paycheck protection round. There's going to be 16 weeks of unemployment benefits. We should say there's going to be a 16-week extension in base unemployment. So what happens, states give you unemployment money that comes from the unemployment fund. The federal government back in March gave an extra $600 a week, which was a good benefit and kept a lot of people, and actually ended up like taking some people out of poverty because they were actually making a living wage at that point with the extra $600.
God forbid.
This time around, there's going to be a 16-week extension. So those 12 million people presumably will not run out of unemployment insurance in December 26th. They will go 16 weeks, I guess, to close to April. Let's call it April 1st. Maybe it's April 10th. I don't know. And in addition, during those 16 weeks, you will get an extra $300 per week. $300 billion for paycheck protection for those businesses that are, like on the verge. Although I think a lot of those businesses have they're gone.
Yeah.
And there was extra money in the paycheck protection in the last round. There was money left over because.
Well, there's $500 billion left over. That's supposed to be going towards this bill as well. So it's
from the CARES Act, broadly speaking.
It's a fraction of what is necessary. They could go bigger. And really it's $200 billion because all of the rest of the money is from before.
$82 billion for schools, $13 billion in emergency food assistance, $25 billion in rental assistance, $35 billion, and I will get back to that, $35 billion in healthcare providers, $13 billion for farmers, ranchers, growers, and fisheries. The bill will have an extension of the eviction moratorium until January 31st. The theory is that once Biden's in office, he can do that unilaterally through, I'm not exactly sure, but some type of executive action. I don't know if he will or if that's, but.
And then some of that rental assistance will have kicked in as well.
And they hope that the $25 billion in rental assistance will also alleviate some pressure by then. And that's it in that one. And then the other bill is about $160 billion worth of city and state aid that comes with a retrospective liability. So, and undercuts a lot of existing labor protections, statutory labor protections that exist,
which Trump already has aggressively undercut.
So perfect area where labor could organize a much bigger, movement around. It's nuanced. It's a little processy and legal, but actually, Sam, do you know, or Emma, do you know which businesses are protected? Is there any sort of distinguishing, is it small businesses, only big business? Is it ever business? How does that?
It just seems to be a corporate liability, period, end of story. To the extent that we have any details on it, I don't see anything.
But it's also protecting your mom and pop shop from a lawsuit. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I love the small businesses being actually big business.
So there is, I mean, by Nancy Pelosi's own standards, that's and people should understand this state, and it's very easy to say, oh, state and municipalities. Okay, well, what that means, massive layoffs by states, and you want to look back at the recovery from the recession that Reagan had, that happened right before Clinton came in, that George Bush had. There is one feature in the recovery that is identical, although Reagan's was even larger, and that is a massive, massive hiring by states and cities. They expanded the government workers grows. And that's how you recover from these recessions. The reason why it was anemic under Obama was because that did not grow, period. And so without that funding, and they're signing off for whatever reason, it's just inexplicable to me why you would sign off on a fiscal budget, a budget that would take you to next October when you could be 3 weeks away from having a Democratic Senate. Like the one crack at this you get is if you get that Democratic Senate. Now, maybe the idea is like, if we get a Democratic Senate, we can do some type of reconciliation bill for a bigger stimulus. I don't know. But without city and state, when they're contracting and they're hurting, they're losing. Remember, a lot of tax revenue is being lost this year, obviously, because of sales taxes, because of, people living outside the cities or whatever it is, or less economic activity, et cetera, et cetera. States and cities are hurting for cash. They're going to lay people off. It's going to ruin services. There's going to be a ripple effect. It's really going to be super ugly. And
they need this funding for adequate vaccine distribution too. I mean,
I think there's some in this for that. I think there is.
They may split the baby here, but regardless, it's at minimum what you're discussing. There's still, reporting out there.
$16 billion for testing, tracing, and vaccine development and distribution.
Do they? I read this story about Puerto Rico not having enough vaccines for the island specifically, but I'm very curious. Like, how is it like a bidding war, like it was?
I don't know how they're handling that. I mean, I don't know actually how that's being distributed across the country. I don't know. I mean, presumably the vaccine, people are getting vaccinated in New York now. I mean, people are getting vaccinated, I think, all around the country. And I would imagine it is now first going to healthcare workers, and then it's nursing home residents. And those are fixed numbers, right? I mean, so you could theoretically, I would imagine at one point that was happening 3 months ago is that somebody's putting in a request into the federal government, and that's how they determine these figures. And then, of course, there's a bunch that's being set aside for Donald Trump's friends, I would imagine. And so I don't know that process, but you need to have technicians to administer the vaccine, and
you need to have enough vaccines.
And you need to have enough vaccines. I mean, that's a separate
40
issue.
million doses by the end of the year. That means 20 million people vaccinated. But that's what Trump is saying, the warp speed people. So I doubt it would be 20 million by the end of the year anyway.
It's unlikely, but no, we got 15 days. No, that ain't happening.
Oh my God, we have 15 days. Geez, I didn't even register that in my mind.
I know it. It's crazy.
And the other thing that's concerning is I know that the CDC has been talking about this, but how is it like you make sure people, since it's going to be this slow roll of vaccines, making sure people still wear their masks? Because if everyone just stops wearing their masks because they think the vaccine's coming out, I'm really concerned actually about the next year. I feel like adequately.
Well, I think what we're about. My prediction is that we're going to be in lockdown, at least in New York, within a month. I think we're going to be in lockdown. I think there's going to be a lot of places that are going to lock down between January and February for a 3 or 4 week period, and to get over like that major hump, flatten that curve, because you're going to have hospitals that are going to be overrun, and then I think I think things are going to ease after that. And I think, there's nothing like having hospitals overrun and seeing that type of like horror to make people take it seriously.